Imagine this. You're sitting in your car, yellow streetlights spilling through the windshield, phone in hand. Eyes fixed on the screen, waiting for her reply. 10 minutes, 20, an hour, still nothing. You think back to the last message you sent, something kind, maybe even a little sweet. You tell yourself, I'm just being honest. That's what a man should do. Write it out, open up, be present, be sincere. But the feeling in your chest says otherwise. It tightens. Not because she hasn't replied, but because a part of you knows. You just gave too much too soon. You didn't send that message because you needed to say it. You sent it because you wanted something back. And when the reply didn't come, you began to feel smaller. Most men end up in this situation, not because they're lacking, but because they don't understand one simple truth. You don't lose a woman when you stop trying. You lose her when you lose yourself. This is Victory Stoic, where men learn to stand strong in front of both women and the world. If you've ever sat somewhere staring at your phone waiting for a message like that, share your story in the comments below. And if you think another man needs to hear this, pass it along. Subscribe so next time you don't have to learn this lesson with your own heart. The question is, why? Why is it that the very thing we think will make her love us is often the thing that drives her away? And if safety, kindness, and presence aren't the golden ticket, what do women actually find magnetic? Women are often drawn not just to safety, but first to mystery and the sense that they have to win you. Safety is like a comfortable armchair in the living room. You know it's there. You sit down, it hugs you, warm, soft. But after a few weeks, you stop thinking about it. Mystery is different. Mystery is like the closed door at the end of the hallway. Every time you pass it, you wonder what's inside. The door isn't locked, but it's not wide open either. Men usually understand safety. We know how to work hard, make money, play the role of safe harbor for someone. But many forget that women don't drop anchor in the harbor until they've been on an interesting voyage first. And that voyage doesn't come from texting her every morning, reporting your schedule, and letting her know your every breath. It comes from making her find out. I remember when I was 37, I had a friend, let's call him Dan. Dan was the textbook good guy, solid career, never drank too much, loved driving his girlfriend around, always remembered anniversaries. And he believed what most good men believe. If I'm always here, always available, she'll appreciate me. 3 months into dating, Dan's girlfriend vanished from the radar. The reason, I just feel disconnected. Dan was stunned, disconnected. How could she feel that way when they were practically glued together every day? The truth is, Dan had turned himself into background noise. There was no space for her to be curious, no unanswered questions. And just like a song on repeat, no matter how good it gets turned off after a while. On the other hand, I also knew a guy named Rick, 42. Rick didn't play cheap hot and cold games, but he had a life of his own. When dating, Rick didn't turn himself into her calendar. Some days he was busy boxing, other days fishing with his buddies. And if she texted while he was at the lake, his answer was simply, "I'm out fishing, tell you later." He didn't ignore her, but he also didn't act like a 24/7 help desk. And that made the women in his life invest more. They asked more questions. They arranged to see him. They competed with his other passions for his time. Mystery isn't about wearing a mask or pretending to be cold. It's about keeping part of your energy for yourself, so a woman has to step in and discover it. It's refusing to be the book someone can finish in a single afternoon. That's why, when you live a life full of things outside the relationship, passions, goals, friends, personal challenges, you naturally become more attractive. Not because you're trying to bait attention, but because you're a man with real depth. And if you exist only around her, if everything about you is revealed on page 1, sooner or later, you'll be put back on the shelf. But what you may not realize is that there's something worse than becoming background noise, becoming the fish in the pond, waiting for someone to toss bait your way once in a while, only for them to yank it back before you can bite. Sound familiar? You think you're building a connection, but in reality, you're in a game where you don't make the rules. And this is a game some women play very well, hot and cold, or as I prefer to call it, emotional starvation. I remember when I was 39, I met a woman named Lisa. At first, it was like a movie, long texts, heart emojis, dates that had me taking my shirts to the dry cleaner more often than usual. But just a month in, the signal started flickering. One day she'd be messaging nonstop, the next radio silence. The reason? I've been busy. I believed her until that very night. I saw her Instagram story, sipping cocktails, laughing with friends. That's when I realized she wasn't busy. She was just pulling the bait. And me, I was like an idiot, standing by the lake, waiting for that next tug on the line. These hot and cold games are like a pendulum. When they swing toward you, you feel warm, safe, like standing in a kitchen in winter. When they swing away, you feel the chill and naturally want to run after them to bring them back close. They know this. And every time you chase, you confirm that the control is not in your hands. Some women don't do this out of malice, it's just instinct. But others use it as a tool of manipulation. They give you just enough attention to keep you there, then pull back so you feel the need to prove your worth even more. I'll tell you about Dave, a friend of mine in Texas, who spent 6 months with a woman he thought he was going to marry. Those 6 months weren't a relationship. They were a series of emotional experiments. One week, she'd invite him to meet her family, talk about the future. The next, she wouldn't reply to his texts or answer his calls. When Dave asked, she'd say, "I just need time for myself." Dave waited. And when she came back, he was as happy as if he'd won the lottery. But that winning ticket had an expiration date of 1 week before the cycle started again. 6 months later, Dave realized how many opportunities and joys he had missed just clinging to something she never truly gave. So how does a Stoic see this game? A Stoic doesn't reject emotions, but they understand. Emotions are not the compass for making decisions. When you get pulled into the hot and cold cycle, you're no longer responding based on your true value. You're responding based on the dopamine doses the other person decides to give you. What would a Stoic man do? He sees the pattern, and instead of trying to fix it, he steps out. Not because he's cold or heartless, but because he knows he can't control someone else's emotions, and it's not his job to try. Take Rick, the guy I mentioned earlier, who once got involved with a woman playing the hot and cold game. But instead of worrying, Rick treated it like the weather. Rain today, sun tomorrow. No big deal. When he noticed the cold days outnumbering the hot, he didn't have long talks, didn't try to explain, didn't lower his value by giving more to make up for it. He just sent one text, "I'm not looking for this kind of connection." And then, he was gone. The result? A month later, she came back accusing him of being heartless. But Rick just smiled. Not heartless, just not playing your game. As a man in today's busy world, you don't have the time or energy to invest in games that have no finish line. Every time you accept an unexplained cold spell, you're teaching her that it's okay. And every time you go chasing for certainty from her, you're handing over the keys to your emotions. The secret isn't to respond to hot and cold with more hot and cold. The secret is to leave the game. Just like when someone invites you to play a rigged poker hand, you don't try to beat them at it. You just stand up and walk away. I've seen this more times than I want to. Men take coldness as a challenge, and instead of holding their ground, they throw in every resource they have, hoping the situation will turn around. They don't realize they're handing weapons to the other side, because when your emotions rise and fall according to someone else's temperature, you've stepped out of the commander's seat. Attraction doesn't survive on chasing. It survives on protected energy, on boundaries no one crosses unless you allow it. A man who still sits upright when everything around him shakes, that's the man people take seriously. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It sounds easy, but it's hard to live by. Because when coldness shows up, your instinct says, do something. Call, text, show up unannounced. Double down on what you think they want. But that's the instinct of a man afraid to lose, not the discipline of a man in command. Mike's story. Mike used to believe that doing more was the way to keep someone. His girlfriend started replying to his messages slower, first minutes, then hours. Instead of waiting, Mike sent flowers to her office with a note. "Thinking of you." He began checking in constantly, asking about every little detail of her day. He thought he was strengthening the love. A month later, she told him, "I need space." Mike froze. In his mind, everything was on track. He was caring present. But the truth was, every flower, every uninvited message, was another brick taken from the wall of his value. He thought he was building it, but he was actually tearing it down. Protecting your energy. A survival principle. The men with lasting attraction aren't the ones who give unconditionally. They give when they choose to, not when their strings are being pulled. They know energy is their most valuable asset, and they don't burn it just to chase away a feeling of emptiness. Protecting your energy doesn't mean being cold or unfeeling. It means knowing where the line is. It means recognizing when silence is a test and instead of panicking, holding your position. You show the other person that their shifting emotional temperature won't knock you off balance. Boundaries. The fence of respect. A door with no lock can't keep anyone in. Boundaries are the lock. Not to imprison someone, but to protect what's inside. People afraid of boundaries think they'll push others away. But the truth is, the ones who stay when there are no boundaries are usually the ones who will exploit you. On the other hand, boundaries make those who truly value you feel safe. It's your way of saying you know who you are and you don't need anyone to confirm it. Andrew's story. Andrew once dated a woman who looked like she belonged on the cover of a magazine. The first 2 months were smooth like background music. Then she started to test him, disappearing for days, ignoring plans to meet, replying to his texts with one-word answers. Andrew didn't react on instinct. He didn't get angry, didn't try to make up for it with flowers or pointless apologies. He stopped engaging. He focused on his work, hit the gym, saw his friends. A week later, she messaged, "I thought you'd reach out more." Andrew simply replied, "I don't compete with silence." From that day on, the tests disappeared. The sea has waves, but a ship moves by compass. Emotions are waves. If you let the waves decide your direction, you'll drift. Your compass is your principle. No one but you decides your value. This takes discipline. When you're pulled into an emotional game, the urge to react burns like fire. You'll want to do something to get your place back. But real strength is holding your ground, letting the waves hit the hull without changing course. Epictetus said, "If someone can anger you, they can control you." Replace anger with insecurity or uncertainty, and it's still true. If someone can decide how you feel just by stepping forward or pulling back, you've given away the wheel. You can't keep attraction alive by constantly patching holes someone else makes. Every time you do, you dig a deeper hole under your own feet. Long-term attraction only exists when you're strong enough to let the other person cross the gap on their own. And if they don't, you still stand firm. A commander doesn't keep people close by constantly proving himself. He lets his value prove itself. And if someone leaves, he doesn't see it as a loss, but as a filter. Because in the end, the man who can balance silence and giving is the man even storms can't knock down. Psychology shows that a woman's respect for you is not a reward for blind love. It is not the result of kneeling before her emotions or sacrificing everything for a nod of approval. Respect exists only when you prove with every breath that you are under no one's control but your own. You can love, but you still stand. You can care, but you keep enough distance not to be consumed. You can be tested, but you don't trade your principles for a few moments of false peace. Picture a fortress wall under the assault of hundreds of arrows. The outer stones may chip, the gates may shudder, but the foundation holds. Those inside looking out don't think about the cracks, they see a stronghold they can rely on. That is how a steadfast man is seen, not because he has never been hit, but because he has never fallen. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. You cannot force someone to respect you, but you can live in a way that leaves them no choice but to do so." Calmness is not empty silence. It is the lion sitting watching others circle, knowing exactly when to strike. Discipline is not a shackle. It is the sword honed daily to remain sharp when needed. Self-respect is not a fragile ego-craving strokes. It is the armor you will never remove, no matter what promises someone makes. When you hold on to these three things, calmness, discipline, and self-respect, even in your harshest trials, you send out a message without saying a word. I am not something to be bought with affection. I am someone who chooses to stay, not someone kept against my will. A woman may be captivated by what you give, but she will only respect you when she sees that what you keep for yourself is worth more than what you give away. Like a lighthouse in a stormy night, your light doesn't chase any ship, nor does it go dark when one passes you by. It keeps turning steadily because it doesn't exist to please a single ship. It exists because that is its nature. And because of that, ships use it to find their way. Respect is the same. It doesn't come to the man who changes course with every gust of wind, but to the one who makes the wind acknowledge his strength. Epictetus once said, "The man who is not master of himself is a slave, whatever his position." If you lose your calm over a word, break your discipline over a feeling, or sell your self-respect just to keep someone, you are no longer the master of yourself. And when you are not your own master, don't expect others to respect you. So when the storm comes, stand. When tested, keep your discipline. When tempted to abandon your principles, tighten your grip on your self-respect. Because a man can lose many things: money, opportunities, even the people who once loved him. But if he loses these three, he loses the only power that makes others bow their heads. And that is when respect leaves, never to return. Closing words. You don't lose a woman when you stop trying, you lose her when you lose yourself. A man can lose money, lose opportunities, even lose those who once swore they'd stay. But if he loses his calm, his discipline, and his self-respect, he loses the one thing that forces others to respect him, the power to own himself. The ones who are meant to stay will stay not because you bowed, but because you stood tall. As for those who leave, let them go, because their leaving only clears the path you need to walk. True attraction isn't about how much someone likes you. It's about them knowing you are someone they cannot control. If you've ever had to choose between keeping your principles or keeping a relationship and you made that choice, share your story below. Because maybe somewhere another man is at that very crossroads and needs to hear your experience. If what you heard today is worth another man hearing, share this video with him. This is Victory Stoic, where men learn to face the truth and stand strong before both women and the world. If you want to keep hearing what men need to hear, not just what they want to hear, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell